Well, good morning, everyone. I'm KOIN Meteorologist Kelley Bayern here, back in the KOIN Now digital booth, coming with a forecast for you as we start to build up the heat this week. You know, we're back under a nice summery pattern, and we've seen these 80-degree temperatures already in the city so far this spring. It's been hot. It was when we kick-started the month of May. Also, the end of April was really hot, but we are expecting to see more of the 80s on the way. We'll talk about if we'll hit the 90s this week, when we also see some cooler days and also a few showers this week too. And also we'll talk about some of the forecast uncertainty and why this week we're mainly talking about heat, why it's still a really tough forecast here in Portland. So let's get into it here. A look at the satellite radar. This is just such a quiet pattern back in the area here. That's your look right over Portland and much of Oregon State and about half of Washington, and very few clouds are in the area. It's all thanks to this big ridge of high pressure, which is a pattern that has downward sinking motion. So it really tends to suppress cloud cover and clouds developing. So we are seeing a lot of blue sky, and that's kind of the case across much of the western U.S. You can see there even down areas like Nevada, portions of Utah, even Colorado. The Great Basin of the desert Southwest is fairly clear and sunny too. And that area is also going to see a lot of heat as we work our way into these next couple of days. So high pressure is our friend when we love these summery temperatures and want them back in the area. It's also how we also start to build up the heat too, and see some hot temperatures returning to Portland. So just a look back at some of the temperatures that we've had so far this year and the last week or so. Look at how cool we've been. Since the middle of May, our temperatures have really sat in the lower to mid 60s. So we did see some relief. The first week of May, the start of this month, was incredibly hot, where we saw our hottest day of the year so far, which has been 85 degrees on the 6th, I believe, of this month. So there hasn't been much 80-degree weather back in Portland. So we have been under a slightly cooler note, but that is going to change as we head our way into this week here. And so far, we've seen 6 days in the 80s, no 90s so far this year. And on average, we tend to see about 15 days across the year here in the 90s and about 61 days. So 4 times that amount in the 80s. So the 80s are very normal, and we do tend to see them frequently here at this part in the year. It is a little hotter than normal, but not unusual. So there's your day planner today. We are expecting to warm up. It is going to feel hot, likely by the early afternoon. We just have pure sunshine out there today, and that direct sunlight is really going to heat things up for us as we head our way into the afternoon. So likely already in the 80s by about 2 or 3 o'clock, and we'll top out somewhere in the mid 80s today here in Portland. The coastline back under lots of sunshine. We are expecting to see temperatures in the 70s for Seaside out to Astoria, Tillamook, maybe even the mid-70s. Lincoln City back in the 60s, a little cooler. And there tends to always be some pockets around the coast that hang on to some clouds or a bit of fog even in the spring and summertime. But I think we're going to see a lot of sunshine here today and some pleasant afternoon temperatures. Portland, likely around 84 degrees. I think we're going to warm up fast today, likely 12 to 13 degrees above normal for this point in the year here, and just a very hot summery afternoon. Same for eastern and central Oregon too. It's going to be real hot out there, likely back in the 80s. So the culprit, there's that ridge of high pressure. Again, we are expecting to see those temperatures warming up under this pattern here. This big ridge is setting up across much of the western U.S. and really across the country. So I'm not seeing or I don't expect to see a lot of cooler than normal temperatures. Again, I can't say it's going to be dry and sunny for the entire country, but it doesn't look too stormy in many spots here as we head our way into tomorrow, at least for much of the western U.S. here. Now that high pressure sits through Wednesday, it starts to shift towards the northeast, and then we build up yet another ridge of high pressure going into Saturday. So in general, there's 2 rounds of heat where we'll see a spike in temperatures into the 80s today and maybe tomorrow, and then again on Friday and Saturday. Just a brief cool down in between that on Thursday, likely back in the 70s. So expect a lot of of heat. I think we'll see at least 3 days in the 80s this week with little measurable rainfall. There might be some rain that moves in on Thursday, but it's a fairly dry pattern here with the majority of our days ahead on the drier side rather than rain. So our temperature trend, average highs 71 in Portland at this point in May. And notice those spikes in heat there today and tomorrow, somewhere in the mid to upper 80s. Thursday is that cooler day, and then we'll see that ridge set up and likely get a couple more days in the 80s come Friday and Saturday before a cooler pattern sets up by Sunday and Monday. Now, there are some uncertain things in the forecast. What helps to cool us away from these little warm-ups here, I'm not calling them heat waves. I think heat wave would be more appropriate for temperatures in the 90s for several days in a row, but this is just the 80s. It is hotter than normal, so a little heat up or a warm up is what I like to say. It is a bit tough to forecast because there is an onshore push of some cooler westerly winds that jet stream starts to direct right back into us, and it's called onshore flow. And that is something that tends to cool us down when we see these hot patterns setting up. And that pattern switch is happening sometime on Wednesday when we see the ridge breaking down and those westerly winds moving that cooler ocean air back into Portland. So there's a little bit of me that thinks that Wednesday could end up somewhere in the lower, maybe the mid 80s instead of the upper 80s. So there is still a lot of change in these forecast numbers that can happen. So keep watching that forecast with us. And regardless, low 80s or upper 80s, that's still very, very hot. So we'll see second round of this Friday and Saturday. That heat up begins, more high pressure. So Friday definitely looks hot, but Saturday tends to be that more uncertain day in terms of forecast highs. Maybe we're somewhere in the mid 80s. There's a chance that Portland doesn't hit the 80s on Saturday, where we cool off way too fast, and maybe we're back in the 70s. So still some uncertainty. Just watch these numbers. They're not set in stone, and they will adjust as these models, again, tune in to the pattern a little better over these next couple of days here with this heat. Now, I just want to share this cool graphic here. Portland's first 90-degree day over the last 7 years. And last year, we saw our first 90-degree day in May. So that came early. It typically happens in the middle of June. On the 18th is when Portland, on average, sees their first 90-degree day. But also 2023 saw the 90s in early May. 2022, big difference there. We saw our first 90 at the end of June. So that came late compared to average. And then, we've kind of bounced around May or June for our first 90-degree day. It can happen in May, but it is unusual. So we'll likely not see the 90s heading into this week. I don't think we'll get hot enough in these two stretches that we have coming this week. So we'll have to wait maybe on the 90s. Here's your future cast. Again, we're dry as we head our way into the next few days, but Thursday, there's that front that moves in. Let me play that again for you. And notice all the sunshine today and tomorrow. We're still dry, but that front comes sliding in, and you can see some light scattered showers through Thursday morning. So there will be some change here as that front shifts in. That's going to be that onshore push of much cooler air and a bit of rain, which will also help to cool us off throughout the afternoon. So we'll keep watching that very closely. But until then, we are expecting some nice weather here today and Wednesday. Get out and go hiking. It's going to be gorgeous out in the Gorge area. The Dalles, Hood River, were in the 70s and the 80s. Cascade Locks were back in the 60s and the 70s. And the Cascades up in elevation, 60s and the 70s too. And keep in mind, there might still be some snow on some of those upper elevated, more summertime trails that you're used to. It still is in the spring season. We still have that snowpack up there. It hasn't quite melted off. So there could be a little bit of snow on some of those trails. So make sure to check reports. Go with the right gear, have an extra pair of socks. It could be a little muddy if you'll be up there, but don't forget the sunscreen. And there's also a slim chance of a few thunderstorms, maybe late Wednesday night over the Cascade Crest, the higher elevations of the Cascade Mountains. So we'll also keep watching that too. But otherwise, some gorgeous days here in Portland. Look at the 7-day. We're expecting mid-upper 80s today and tomorrow. Again, Wednesday might cool off slightly back to the lower 80s. We'll keep our eyes on that forecast. Thursday, a few morning showers. We'll see temperatures in the mid 70s, and then we're briefly hot again Friday and Saturday, back in the 80s with some pleasant weather Sunday and Monday. Not really seeing much rainfall, maybe a tenth of an inch of rain this entire week. So there is a lot of dry time instead of rain this week. I know some folks really like the rain, and sometimes I'll get an email saying, why do you make it sound like rain is the bad guy? And I don't. I do like rain. It's springtime. It's summer. I think we're all itching to get into those summery activities. So this will be a really great week for it. So enjoy it. Be safe out there. Those rivers are still pretty cold, so make sure you are smart if you are heading outdoors, and be prepared for this heat. Okay, thanks for tuning in. I will catch you maybe tomorrow. We can talk more about these temperatures, but otherwise, have a great Tuesday. Hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and I will catch you next time.